probably introduce myself. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Amber Watson. I'm the Director for Academic Advising here in the College of Science. I also have with me today Danielle Massey. She's our Assistant Director in the College of Science. And many of you have heard from her multiple times at this point, I'm guessing. We also have Mark Bresnahan, who's an Academic Advisor in our office. And Mark and Danielle are going to be answering questions as we go. And then again, some of them they'll leave till the end and I'll answer those for everybody out loud. So I have a pretty brief presentation because I want lots of time for questions and answers, but here's what we have for you so far. We're going to talk about student support while you're here this summer and while you're abroad. We're going to talk about your semester, well, I shouldn't say abroad because some of you are coming to Boston, but we're going to talk about your NUin semester and how course registration is going to work. We'll talk about what happens for spring registration when you start on the Boston campus in the spring and what that looks like. And then, like I said, we should have lots of time for questions and answers at the end, but you can type them in at any point. All right, here we go. So here in the College of Science, we have 15 single majors, which is on this list right in front of you. Most of you probably applied to one of these majors. And so if you came in to be a physics major, that's what you put on your Common App. That's what you're listed as right now. Excuse me. We also have something called combined majors though. And so for some of you, you've already applied to a combined major, so you know what that is. But for those of you that don't, I'm going to just really briefly explain what that is. A combined major is when two departments have taken their degree programs and kind of whittled them down so that they would fit together in the same amount of time as any of these single majors on your screen. So we have some within the College of Science. Biology, mathematics is an example of that. Psychology and linguistics is another example. But we actually have a ton of combined majors that span across the university. Some of our most popular majors are things like business administration and mathematics, business administration and psychology. We have a psychology and health science. So they're a way for you to study two disciplines but receive one degree that takes the same amount of time. This is different than a double major. We often get lots of questions about what's a double major and why, what's the difference? A double major means that you complete all of the requirements of each major. Often that means that that takes longer than 8 semesters to graduate because you're doing not fully twice the work, but probably 1 3/4 amount of the work of a regular degree. Sometimes it works out for students and they choose to do that. Most times, especially for our science students, students will choose to do a combined major or a major and a minor. So this is not something you need to have fully decided and made your mind up about today, but I do want to let you know that there are various ways you can choose what to study while you're here at Northeastern. So here's how it works at Northeastern. This is going to look a little different, generally speaking, depending on if you're in Ireland or Greece or in Boston, because the credits per course is a little bit different at each location. But generally speaking, being a full-time student at Northeastern means you get 16 or more credits. So if you're enrolled in the NUin Boston program, you're going to be in 4 4-credit classes and any additional 1-credit labs. So if you're in bio and chemistry, for instance, you're probably going to be at about 18 credits because you'll have the labs for those courses. I believe Greece is on our same credit conversion, and then Ireland is 3 credits per course plus labs. So you may be in 5 classes if you're going to UCD in Ireland, but you're coming all in the same ballpark of credits for your first semester as part of the Northeastern program. So hopefully that makes sense. We get a ton of questions about transfer credits. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit generally how it works, and also we'll talk about how that affects your NUin semester. So at Northeastern, across the board, we will take up to 32 credits of test credit. So when I say test credit, I mean AP, IB, GCE. There are a few Indian certificate exams that we take. There's a whole big long list on the admissions website. We will take 32 credits of those. However, it is not uncommon for students to have passed more than 32 credits. So here's how that works. It's a little complicated, but hang with me. If you have, let's just use this example. Let's say you have 32 credits of AP, and for whatever reason, you took physics IB and passed that. You would get 32 credits towards your overall credits to graduation, and your physics course would fulfill your physics requirement. It just wouldn't grant any credits. So you would take those credits in something else later on. You know, you could do an elective, you could do a different major course. We're not going to make you repeat classes you've already passed, but you will only get 32 total credits towards graduation. So hopefully that was somewhat clear. We'll also take 60 credits from a 2-year institution. So for those of you that did dual enrollment while you were in high school, as long as the credits can be shown on a college transcript, we will accept those into Northeastern. And you should, if you're not already, you should work with your admissions counselor to make sure that you have any transfer credits are evaluated so you know exactly what they're going to come in for at Northeastern. And then there's really no transfer students in the audience tonight, but just in case, we'll take up to 80 credits from a 4-year institution. It's really important to note that for the transfer credits, you need a C or better for them to transfer over to Northeastern for credit. There is one exception to that. Last spring, so spring 20 and summer 20, most of the United States went to a pass-fail model because of the pandemic. If you took classes during that time that came in as pass-fail, we will accept credits that are that you passed for those 2 semesters, because we know it happened all across the country, and we did it too, and so we will accept pass-fail for those 2 semesters alone. The other thing that's really important to note here is at part of the NUin program, all of your courses come back as transfer courses, even if you're participating in the Boston program, which means you all need a C or better in those classes to bring them in to your Northeastern record. So I have full confidence that you will all get that, but it is good for you to know. We get a ton of questions about pre-health, and there's a lot of information out there that says med schools won't take AP or IB credits, and should I repeat, general chemistry or general biology? Our answer is no in most cases. The pre-health department urges us to tell you that you should move forward and take something further down the road. So, med schools don't want you to repeat credits if you can take an upper level credit later that covers the same category. The exception is sometimes for NUin students, like let's say you have general chemistry AP credits. Sometimes as an NUin student, because there's not Orgo available, you may choose to repeat chemistry just so you stay in the mindset of doing chemistry at the college level. That's totally fine. Other students say, it's fine, I'll take a semester without chemistry. I'm going to get some other classes while I'm in NUin, and then I'll move to Orgo just like I would have in the spring. So we'll talk a little bit about what orientation meetings look like, but we'll cover that individually during your orientation meeting. So you're going to have one academic advisor for the fall semester. That's Danielle, who's in your top corner. She will be your main point of contact during the fall. You can also always email COS advising if something comes up. After the fall, you will get a permanent academic advisor, which I'll talk to you about in a little bit. But for now, you'll have one point of contact no matter which country you're going to or which location. All through the fall will be Danielle. So hopefully you all have signed up for your advising sessions. If you have not, please check your email and find that link, because we want to make sure that you all have an appropriate schedule for your fall semester. And the way that we're doing that is through advising walk-ins throughout the month of July. So it's really, really important. If you do not have a space yet, please go sign up today after this meeting. During that meeting, we're going to talk about your fall semester. We're going to solidify your course selection. We're going to make sure that you're in the right major courses, that if you have new path, that you've chosen a new path that you might need for your major. If you have room for electives, we'll make sure that you have chosen electives that make sense for you. We'll also confirm any information about AP or IB credits. And so that's when we're going to ask you, okay, what did you take? How did you do? We know that some of those early sessions are before AP and IB comes in. So if you signed up for the session like during the week of the 4th of July, you likely won't have your transfer credits yet. What we'll do, and we do this all the time, so it's totally fine, we'll ask you individually, how do you think you did? We find that most students are pretty accurate, right? Most students who say, you know what, I feel really confident, often end up having passed the exam. Students that are like, I don't know, that was really hard, you know, that is usually accurate also. So we'll ask you how you think you did, and then we'll plan your schedule according to kind of how you think you did and if we should replace a course for you. After AP or IB scores come in, so sort of mid-July, you'll email the COS advising email if anything that you, any scores that you got should affect your fall schedule. So if you tell us, I totally think I passed bio, I feel really, really confident, and then we move you out of bio, and for some reason your score comes back lower than you thought, it's totally fine. You just need to let us know so we can put you in back in bio, and so you're all set for fall. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll be kind of guessing at the beginning, but ultimately by the time fall starts, you will all be in the correct courses based on what your actual scores are when you get them in mid-July. Once you're there or here or wherever it is that you're going for the NUin program, we really want you to own your experience. So I know that you are going to have a good time. I know there's a lot of activities planned, whether you're going abroad or whether you're coming to Boston. You're going to be meeting new people, making new friends. And so we really want you to have a great social and cultural experience. We also want you to remember, though, that this is your first semester in college, and you really need to establish the kind of habits that are going to keep you being successful as you move through the rest of your time at Northeastern. You all were very high achieving high school students or you wouldn't be here. And so we just want you to continue that in college and really develop those good, healthy habits early. If for some reason you end up not feeling like you're doing well in a class, please reach out to the NUin office or Danielle as soon as you kind of feel like you're not doing well. We can get you to resources. There's tutoring, there's all kinds of resources that we can point you to, but only if we know that you're having a hard time. So hopefully, everyone does completely fine, but if somewhere along the way you're having a hard time, reach out to us early so that we can get you connected where you need to get connected. Also, I cannot stress this enough. If you walk away from here and remember nothing else I said, please remember this. You have to check your Northeastern email regularly. Like stick it on your phone, forward it to your personal email. I don't really care what method you do, but you have to check that email regularly. All our communication is going to come to you from there. So things like spring registration and what you need to do, what advising is going to look like in the fall to prepare for spring. Everything coming from Danielle and the NUin office is all coming to your Northeastern email. So I know I sound like a broken record, but please check your Northeastern email early and often. It will make your life and our lives much better. We also have a really cool program that I wanted to let you all know about. It's called the NUin Ambassador Program. And actually Mark runs this program for us. But this is a group of upper class students, most of whom have participated in the NUin program previously, who volunteered to connect with you all during your fall semester. So you'll hear from, Mark will match everybody up and you'll hear from that person a couple of times per semester, per the fall semester. It's really up to you how much you interact with them, but they're going to be reaching out to you to see how you're doing, to let you know some things you should be thinking about for that time of year. They'll reach out before registration and remind you to look at the information that Danielle sent you, for instance. And we find that the students who reach back out to their mentors really kind of make a connection and then have a friendly face when they get here or transition in the spring. So you certainly don't have to interact with them if you don't want to, but we find that the students who do really feel connected to the campus and their major, we try to match you up with by major wherever possible. So you'll be getting an email from them in the fall, early fall semester. And we hope that you take advantage of that program because we find that students really enjoy it when they do connect with those people. All right, spring registration. So that's going to happen in the fall semester in November. However, the process will happen much earlier than that. So it's, again, really important that you start checking your Northeastern email, because once the fall semester starts, Danielle will start sending out information about how to have an advising appointment or an advising walk-in. She'll send out information about how to start reviewing the schedule when it's available in October. And you know, if you are abroad or in Boston, most of those appointments will happen via Zoom or Teams in either group settings or individual settings. So just start paying attention to your email in the beginning of the fall semester, because you'll start to hear from her about our process. Another thing to know, you might not remember this, but I need to say it out loud to you now, and we'll say it again 20 more times before then, I promise. But all students are pre-seated into a set of courses that are standard for their major. What that doesn't take into account is any transfer credit you already have, anything you're actually enrolled in the fall, right? So if you have transfer credit, a really common scenario is you have transfer credit for college writing, but if you're one of the majors that typically takes it in the spring, you're likely to see college writing on your schedule right before registration opens. It's totally fine and totally normal. Once registration opens, you'll be able to drop that course and add whatever course is appropriate for you to replace with. That's what we're gonna talk about in your advising meetings. We're gonna talk individually, look at your records and say, okay, based on what you're taking in the fall, based on your AP, based on your IB and transfer and all the other stuff you're bringing in, this is what you individually should be in for the spring. So that means you drop these classes, you add these classes, or you don't touch these classes. So you'll get a chance to talk about all of this before it comes up, but I do want it to at least sound familiar in the back of your head when you see some classes on your schedule that maybe don't make sense. You will have an opportunity to change them. It's a standard seed across the board, so every bio major will have the same spring schedule until you start changing it up. You're gonna get to register for your own classes in the spring. For those of you that did the NUin Boston, you had a little preview of that. This will be a fairly different experience because you're going to have a lot more freedom over all your courses. And like I said, you'll be pre-seated in some, but you'll certainly be able to switch out of the things that you don't need and add the things that you want based on your own interests or what makes sense for your curriculum and your major. And then our goal, or your deadline, I guess I should phrase it that way, is to be done registering by December 20th. Because after that, and again, we'll tell you these dates like 60 more times, but after December 20th, then we will go and look at every single student's schedule to make sure that it makes sense for you, right? We're gonna make sure that you're fully scheduled in the right number of classes. We're gonna make sure that you're not repeating credit for something you don't need to repeat credit for. So you'll have from November to December 20th to mess with your schedule, make any changes you want. And then from there, we will adjust your schedule, or we will check your schedule and communicate with you if there's something that you maybe need to change or fix. I can't stress this enough, because we inevitably, every single year, we get emails from the students once your schedule comes out in the fall, like saying, why am I in college writing? I have credit, I don't need it. Just ignore your schedule until you can actually register for it, because they'll start working on your schedules about 3 weeks before any of us can actually even touch your schedule. So it's gonna look funky for a little bit. That's okay, that's totally normal. It's not your final permanent schedule. You should really just ignore it until you hear that it is your time and day to start registering. And that's when you really get to change it up and touch it. So we also get a lot of questions about, what if I want to change my major? When? How does that work? How does that affect my fall schedule? That kind of thing. If you change your major between now and 3 weeks before fall registration starts, then you will be seated into the new majors classes. So if you go from biology to chemistry, before they start seating students, then you'll be put in chemistry classes from the beginning. If you don't, it's okay. You can still change your major, but that means you're going to have more classes to change on your schedule because they will have seated you in your former major. So again, it's totally fine. You can also completely change your major all the way through until you graduate, essentially. There's not any hard and fast deadlines. But if you know that you want to change your major and that becomes clear to you in the fall, try to do it early so we can get you connected with the right schedule. And if for some reason you're leaving our college and going to a different, let's say you're going to engineering, for instance, we'll be sad you go. But also, the earlier you do that, the earlier you get connected with someone over there, because their process might look different than ours. So you don't have to change your major, obviously, but if you do decide, try to change it early. So finally, when you get here in the spring, or when you stay here in the spring, I know some of you are coming to Boston, so I have to change my language a little bit, but you will then be assigned your permanent academic advisor. And so that is the person who's going to work with you from the first week of classes in the spring all the way through graduation. They'll really help you plan out the rest of your time at Northeastern. You'll start academic planning with them, so you'll learn when you can go on co-op, how many co-ops make sense for you, can you have another study abroad experience if you want, how much room for electives and minors do you have. All of that is what's going to happen within your spring semester when you meet with your permanent academic advisor. So we encourage students to schedule your appointments pretty early in the spring semester, so you really have a good handle on what your plan is when you're thinking about summer or fall classes in the spring. Also in the College of Science, you will have a faculty advisor, or more than one. Faculty advisors are teaching faculty members in the department where your major is housed. And so big departments like biology, for instance, have several faculty advisors, and you can utilize any of them that you want. Some smaller departments like linguistics might have one faculty advisor, but they're really here to help you navigate the curriculum content. So no one on my staff, I mean, some of us have psychology backgrounds, but most of us don't have a science background. So we can help you get to graduation, but as far as sort of picking classes that are most relevant to studying a specific kind of chemistry, that's where your faculty advisor comes in, and that's where they're the experts. They'll also are really good resources for post-grad options. So if you're thinking you want to go to grad school and maybe you're not sure what area you want to study, for instance, they can really help you navigate those choices around, kind of non-health professions graduate programs. You'll also have a co-op coordinator. You will be assigned a co-op coordinator in the semester before you go on co-op. And so it's not something you need to worry about now, but know that you will have someone who supports you through that whole co-op process from before you go on co-op all the way until you're done with your very last co-op, however many that is. It varies per student. So you're going to be really supported by Danielle and in the fall, and then you'll have a permanent person, really 3 of them at minimum, starting in the spring semester. So I know that was kind of a lot of information, but hopefully I covered the basics of sort of what to expect at orientation, what to expect for spring registration, and how you'll be supported when you come in the spring. So I'm guessing that there's several questions. Is that right, Danielle?
It's actually been pretty quiet. So okay. I might have just jinxed myself, but right now it's been pretty quiet. I just want to let people know I posted the link to Calendly to register for the advising session in the chat. So if you haven't already, please do so now. It should take you literally 2 minutes to fill one out, find a time that works for you. You can always cancel it and change it. Should something come up, you can follow the same link to do so. The other question that was chatted to me and I answered publicly is, but maybe Amber, you want to answer this too, is how do you change your major either to a combined or to another single?
Yep, good question. So you can go on your admitted student portal. Like if you know right now sitting here listening to me that you want to change your major, you can go on your admitted student portal. There is a change of major button link, click that, you'll see it's a drop-down list, you'll choose your new major. And then it usually takes about 2 weeks to hear back. If you're going within the College of Science, you'll likely hear back much faster. But if you're trying to switch to another college, it could take up to 2 weeks for that new college to contact you back. All of our processes for registration and orientation are all slightly different. So if you're going to a new college, you should wait to hear from them because their process may not be exactly the same as ours. So you will hear from them for sure, but I don't want you to assume that what you did for us is going to be what you do for them. They'll lay out whatever their process and requirements are when you hear back from them.
Yeah. One question came in about how are students able to view their schedules, and that's going to probably vary by site.
Yes, it will. Excuse me. So if you are going to Ireland or Greece, I think we have one student who might have been in England and then changed their major. So if you're going somewhere other than Boston, you won't get your schedule until you arrive on site. The NUin office, so during orientation, we'll take your choices and we'll plug them into our system. And then NUin office takes that information, gives it to the partner institutions in the other countries, and they put your schedules, actually put your schedules together, and then you're given those schedules when you arrive there. If you're a Boston student, you should be able to see your registration and schedule history and access through your admitted student portal or your NUin student portal. And ideally, you've already done what you needed to do to add your culture course, for instance, when registration was open a couple of weeks ago.
When registering for classes, is it a first come, first serve?
It's a good question. Yes-ish. So if you need a class for your major, you're going to get in the class for your major. If you're a bio major and you need biology, you're going to take biology in the fall. Like that's a given. If you want a culture course, you probably already saw if you're going to the Boston program that some of them closed as people were registering, and you might have had to choose, a second or a third option. If you're going to the other country, they do their best to give students first options, but ultimately they prioritize the major courses first, and then they choose your electives or culture courses based on your choices around what will fit in the schedule of the courses you absolutely need and can't change.
Okay. And just a little housekeeping. If you wouldn't mind not just privately messaging me, Mark is also available to answer questions too, but if you private chat to me, I'm the only one that can see it. So if you publicly put it out there for everyone, Mark is also able to answer those questions. One question that I got was, could you just go over the grade and what needs to be the grade in order to transfer credits to Northeastern in the spring semester?
Yes, so you need a C or better in all courses from your NUin program or from any previous institutions where you've taken courses. There is one exception. If you took courses in spring of 2020 or summer of 2020, so last spring and summer, we will accept a passing grade instead of a letter grade because most of the country went to a pass-fail system at that time because of how things suddenly happened with you all lived it, I don't need to rehash it for you. So if you have passing grades from those 2 semesters, we will accept those. Any courses from any other semester, including your fall semester, you need a C or better for them to transfer to Northeastern. Hopefully that clarified.
Any questions regarding like visas or housing or specific those, if you could direct those directly to NUin, they are the experts in that. I would hate to give you any bad advice on regards to your visa and what you need to do for that. So NUin at northeastern.edu would be able to assist and direct you to any visa questions on that. When preparing for the advising session, what should students do to make sure that they're ready to go for our July sessions?
Ooh, good question. So the most important thing for you to do is have a list that for yourself to share with us that lists all of your transfer A, B, or I AP or IB classes. And think about now and write it down how you think you did. So if you took bio and calc AP this year, write those down for in preparation for our meeting and really give it good thought. Like, was that the easiest thing you ever did and you're definitely sure you got a 4 or 5? Note that. If that was the hardest test you've ever taken, then note that. If you're like, I don't know, I'm ambivalent, that's okay too. So really come prepared to talk about your transfer credits. You also should look at the course maps on the NUin website for wherever you're going, because you're going to be able to see all of the elective choices that you have available based on your site and your major. They also, I believe, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there are course descriptions on the NUin website as well, right?
There is. It's not based off sites. It's literally a long, long list of all the description of courses you could possibly take.
Okay, so you should have some time when you look at that. It's maybe not something you're going to do when you're rushed. But yeah, the more prepared you are for knowing, okay, I know that I'm going to have bio AP credit. I've decided I don't want to repeat bio, so I want to replace it with these are my top 2 choices, right? If you kind of look at all of that in preparation for your appointment, then it's going to go really smoothly. We'll be able to answer other questions you might have. And we'll be able to put your choices in for you. So,
if a student were to change from a single major to a combined major, would it cost more or take longer to complete that?
good question. Does not cost any more. Tuition is tuition. And no, so the combined majors are really designed to be completed in the same amount of time as any of our single majors. Where you talk about adding time to your program is when you talk about a double major. That's because you have to do, like, let's just use bio and math as an example. If you were a double major, you would have to do all the requirements for a math major plus all of the requirements for a biology major. If you're a bio-math combined major, the departments have already whittled that down for you to take the same amount of time as either of those individually.
And kind of piggybacking off that, what is the average course load for a student per semester?
Yep. So the average course load is at least 16 credits. So at Northeastern and in Greece, that's going to be 4 classes plus any additional labs. So it could be it could be up to 18 credits if you're taking bio and chem in the same semester, for instance. In Ireland, you're going to be in at least 5 courses plus any additional labs. But when you start in the spring and move forward, 4 credit courses and any additional labs is considered full-time at Northeastern.
And going back to transfer credits and incoming credits, how do challenge exams work and in relation to course registration and credits?
Good question. So challenge exams, if you pass a challenge exam, you will get both meet the requirement and the same number of credits that course grants at Northeastern. So if you pass the chemistry challenge exam, for instance, you'll get credit for Chem 1161, 1162, and 1163, which is 5 course credits total. For challenge exams, we don't move students forward until you get your scores back. Once you have your scores back, if you pass one of your challenge exams that you took, you'll email us and we'll adjust your schedule accordingly. So we'll either add you into an elective. If it's a calc course, we might add you into calc 2 or 3, depending on your site, that kind of thing. But you would not have to repeat the course if you pass the challenge exam unless you chose to.
And if students aren't going to, similar to challenge exams, not going to get AP or IB or scores for a bit later, especially since we've heard they're coming late July now, will this impact registration?
Yeah, so like I had said during the presentation, we will ask you how you think you did, and then we will adjust your schedule accordingly. And then once you receive your scores, you're going to email us if it affects your schedule. So if you tell us when we meet that you're pretty confident that you have bio credit, and we take you out of your bio course and put you into something else, and then you get your bio score in July, and let's say it was a 3, so you're not getting credit for it at Northeastern, you will email us and let us know, and we'll put you back in biology. The same is true in the opposite. If you're not confident now and we don't take you out of bio, and then you pass it and you get your scores back, you'll also email us and we'll say, great, we're gonna, move you out of bio, and what else, let's talk about what else you could take instead.
So since some of the students will be taking science courses abroad, what's the difference or relation to Northeastern science courses?
So the courses are direct equivalents to the courses you would be taking here in your curriculum. So if you're in Ireland, you're going to take 11, well, anywhere, right? Ireland, Greece, England, not England, but Ireland or Greece. If you need chemistry, it's the same chemistry course that you would take here in NUin Boston, or that the fall students take in the fall. Same for biology, same for calculus. Every course is equivalent to its Northeastern counterpart.
I have a student in here, and I'm sure there's others that are interested in pre-med or pre-health advising. Is there specific advisors that they would be meeting with to advise them on that track?
So you will meet with pre-health advisors when you start in the spring, or you can meet with pre-health advisors when you start in the spring semester. You're welcome to email them at any point, but your first sort of official appointment would be in the spring semester. There's a ton of information on the pre-health website about prereqs, about study abroad, about the programs that they support. So I really encourage you to do some Googling and look at their website. I think a lot of basic first year questions are answered in their frequently asked questions piece of the website. But yeah, you absolutely can meet with someone starting in the spring, and you can continue meeting with that person or the group of people until you get into the program you're applying to.
There's a question about the AP portion, and so just maybe I think would be good to clarify what the difference is between taking or receiving a grade at Northeastern in the spring semester versus a transfer credit, and how that impacts their GPA at Northeastern.
Oh yeah, so your Northeastern GPA will not start until the spring semester. So you will start with a 0.0, which is not because you failed, when you start in the spring, and your first GPA will happen at the end of spring. However, it's really important to note, if you are pre-health and you're going to be applying to medical school, PA school, dental school, etc., they will take every transcript from any place you've taken courses, and they will do their own GPA calculation. So let's say you have a 3.9 in NUin, and then you end up with a 4.0 at Northeastern. When medical schools figure out what your GPA is for application purposes, it will include all the courses you took at any place. And that also includes like dual enrollment stuff that you took in high school that you transfer. So I want to be really clear that while your GPA doesn't start until the spring, what you do in the fall counts, especially if you're going to graduate school.
Great. I had a question, and I'm sorry, I'm going to answer this one.
Sure, yeah,
about if you're changing your major but your schedule still is verified. I'm encouraging all students to attend an advising session. We consider it a mandatory session. This is your opportunity to have an advisor put eyes on your schedule to give you that final seal of approval to know that you're going into courses that are going to move you forward in your curriculum. So even if everything matches on paper, it looks the same, I still would say come to an advising session so that we can put that seal of approval on it to make sure you're off to a good start.
Yep. I mean, you might only talk to us for 5 minutes, right? But it'll be 5 minutes that will reassure you that you're all set.
So I'm scrolling down. Sorry, I lost my place in the chat. I'm just going to read this one. I'm a chemistry major. Assuming I want to get most, if not all, of my humanities classes out of the way, that would clear those class requirements. But I would need to compensate those classes with something else. Would I need to be equal in credit, i.e. 4 credits classes for a 4-credit class, or can I substitute a class for a different in credit value, i.e. a 4-credit class for a 1-credit class?
Yeah, so I'm going to break that down a little bit because it's kind of a complicated question, but it's actually, I don't think, a complicated answer. Every single semester you're at Northeastern, except in the summer or your very last semester for graduation, you are expected to be in at least 4 classes of 4 credits each that equals 16 credits or more per semester. The summers you can take just 1 course or maximum 2 per summer session. And your last semester to graduation, if you don't need all 4 courses to graduate, you don't need them in that last semester. So even if you take all of your sort of like humanities elective stuff in your NUin semester, you're still going to need 4 4-credit classes every fall and spring that you're in classes after that, except your last semester to graduate. On top of that, there are very few 1-credit classes offered at Northeastern. There's lots of 1-credit labs, but those are all attached to 4-credit courses. So it would be almost impossible for you to reach 16 or more credits with a handful of 1-credit courses. There's just not enough that exist that way. What it means, if you get your new path done in your fall semester in NUin, that's great. What that means is that you can do minor courses or other electives that are interesting to you. It almost never is the case that students take 4 science classes in a semester. That's a lot of courses. They're not super easy. Typically, the most science courses you're going to take in a semester is 3. So you will always have room on a regular semester to fill your schedule with at least 1 other course, or most of the time, I guess I should say. So really, even if you do your new path, you're still going to fill it with something. It'll just be electives, or if you want to work towards a minor or something like that. So hopefully that clarified or answered the question.
This question's about new path, and I'd actually like to answer
Sure.
this one as well. So this one's, where can I find the new path requirements? It's not an easy thing to know. Most of it you'll be finding out with an academic advisor, but I'm going to give you a cheat sheet for your advising appointment as a preparing for your advising appointment. So a lot of students you've asked, what should you do to help prepare for it? I'm going to send that to you in a list prior to, as a reminder, you've got a session coming up. This is what you should do to prepare for it. I'll also send you a link to the course, to your course map, so you'll be able to kind of get a sense of what you might want ahead of time, along with a sheet that we've made that has all of the new path attributes that are not met by your major. So a lot of our majors do cover, there are 11 different new path categories that you have to complete in order to graduate from Northeastern, but most of our majors cover at least 6 of the, even more than that, 7 of those, because I think the most is one of our majors has 5 that they would need to do outside. Some are as few as 1. So some majors will cover all but one of those. This is excluding the English component. So there are 2 English courses, so I should actually preface that. So 3 would be the least amount, all the way up to 8 being the most. But I will send you a list so that you'll know kind of how to prepare and might be able to help choose your electives in preparation for your advising session. Yeah. There's a question about, will there be hybrid or virtual classes this fall? Oh, you're muted, Amber.
I don't know how that happened, but sorry about that. At Northeastern, if you're attending Boston, the short answer is no, or not across the board. There might be 1 or 2 virtual classes in the NUin program that students take, that one of your electives might be offered virtually, but by and large, your classes will be in person, sort of like pre-pandemic, right? So Boston has lifted the capacity limitations starting in the fall. So you'll be in a regular classroom full of students learning like you would have, pre-COVID. The plan is for that to also be the case in Greece and Ireland. Certainly, that's a whole other country. And so their pandemic responses are certainly up to that country. But for now, for everything that we know, you will be going to class in person, regardless of where you're at and which site you're going to participate in.
Could you talk about NUpath and how students satisfy those? Is it one class per requirement, or is there another way?
That's a good question. So at Northeastern, you can complete two NUpath requirements with one course. So there's some really common combinations. It's really common to see a course that will fulfill difference and diversity and interpreting cultures together, right? So that's that you get like a 2-for-1, and if you do something like that, you might create room for a free elective later on. Another really common one is interpreting cultures and societies and institutions, for instance. But yeah, you can take one class that can fill up to 2 NUpath requirements with that one course.
As science students, what is the likelihood that they're able to graduate in 4 years with 2 co-ops with or without transfer credit?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody, regardless of what program they're in, can graduate from Northeastern in 4 years with 2 co-ops. However, that often means summer courses because you're on co-op for 6 months, and part of that, 4 of those months is a regular semester, so either a fall or spring semester. So it is definitely possible to graduate in 4 years with 2 co-ops. How many summer sessions you need to make that happen will really vary based on how many transfer credits you bring in, and how those transfer credits relate to your major. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is it's going to look different for everybody.
And going back to NUpath, the question was, can incoming credits such as AP, IB, or any transfer credit count towards NUpath? Absolutely. So all of the exam credits are been evaluated as equivalent to Northeastern courses. It's the Northeastern course which carries the NUpath attribute. But so if it's linked or equivalent to a NUpath course, for example, foundations of psychology. So if you took AP psychology, that's equivalent to our PSY 1101 foundations of psychology, which carries 2 NUpath attributes of natural design and societies and institutions. So you could get 2 of those attributes with that AP credit. I lost the question I just wanted to ask. Sorry, I'm scrolling.
Well, there was a question, I was on the chat too. There's a question about the 1 credit global course. And correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, but I believe it's actually only required for students going to Ireland this year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, the global experience, the global connections course, the 1 credit, is only required for those students going to UCD Ireland, and the reason for that is because of the 3 credit system that those courses are. So for a course that's biology, for example, but with lab, is only 4 credits at UCD because the lecture's 3 credits and then the lab is 1 credit, where a student who takes that in Greece or Boston is earning 5 credits for that. So in order to help bridge the gap or kind of shrink the difference between those, they've added this 1 credit global connections course so that you're coming in with similar credit count as you would if you were in any of the other sites. I saw a question, and I'm just seeing if I can get the specific wording of it. But if students are interested in a different area of subjects, but they're not sure about doing combined, minor, double, what do they do?
Yeah, so if there's 2 answers to this question, or sort of a if this and this kind of answer. If you are at the point where you're like, I know I want to be a scientist, and I probably am going to end up in a bio-based major, but I really don't know if I'm going to be a behavioral neuroscientist or a biochemist or a biologist, you just need to stay in sciences. The beginning curriculum is almost identical. You can choose a culture or a NUpath course that might explore a minor option for you, right? And then you have lots of time to kind of figure out fully what you want to do and be. If you're sitting here today and you're thinking, I don't know if I should be a biologist or an architect or a musician or a librarian, all very cool careers, you should probably go to the Explore program, because that's really what they're designed to do. They're designed to help students really explore very, very, very different choices. If you know you want to be a scientist, stay in the College of Science. Most of our first year curriculum is very, very similar. So you're not going to be too far off track. You know, whether it's in the fall or spring, you will have room at some point to choose at least one elective course. And that's where you can start thinking about, like, maybe I want to minor in psychology. Let me try a psychology course, that kind of thing. So hopefully that clarified.
Can you talk a little bit about the +1 programs and how NUin fits into that?
Yeah, so +1 programs are these really cool ways for students to get a master's degree and an undergrad degree at the same time. Or not at the same time, in 5 years, I should clarify, sorry. So the way it works is you do 1 year worth of master's courses in your last year as an undergrad, and it double counts for your undergrad degree and your grad degree. And then your last year, you're a grad student, and you finish out your master's degree in 1 year instead of the 2 like normal if you didn't do a +1. Our +1 programs are applied sciences. So they're things like biotechnology, bioinformatics, applied mathematics, environmental public policy, applied behavioral analysis, school counseling, those kinds of degrees. It is not something you need to decide as a first-year student at all, and your fall schedule would not change even if you knew today that you wanted to do one of these programs. So it is good for you to be thinking about. You should talk to your advisor about it in the spring so you can kind of see what a plan looks like. You absolutely don't need to know now, and it won't affect anything you do in the fall one way or the other.
Perfect. I've had a couple questions on designing your own combined major, if it's not listed as one of those options in our college catalog.
Yeah, it is possible, but it is not a guarantee. You essentially have to convince the 2 departments that that degree makes sense, and then they have to work together to create a degree. It's definitely not something you're going to be able to do or get an answer for in the fall. It is something you can start working on in the spring when you get to campus or stay on campus. But yeah, it is possible to create a combined major. Some of our most popular combined majors have come from students' ideas, actually. But it does take some working with each department, and they need to be related in some way, because each combined major requires a set of, I just lost the word, Danielle. What are those called when they combine the 2 disciplines in a course?
Interdisciplinary course?
Yeah, integrative.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. It does require at least 2 integrative courses, which means one course has to literally cover both disciplines. So they can't be things that are so far apart someone couldn't design a course to combine them.
I had a question about co-op. Is it possible to finish all of your degree requirements and then go on a co-op, not paying tuition for that semester?
It is not possible to end on co-op, and it is not possible to do 2 co-ops in a row. We call ending on co-op graduating and getting a job, and you'll probably make more money than you would on co-op. You don't pay tuition while you're on co-op anyways, regardless of when you take it, but yeah, your co-op is really designed to be done through your program, not after.
And we have a question about a new path designations. Could I take a class for international relations, for example, and get a new path credit for it?
So good question. Each course has to go through a really rigorous process to get the new path designations that they hold. So not every course has new path attributes, and we cannot apply new path attributes to courses that don't have them. There's a whole faculty committee that decides which courses should have which attributes. So you only get new path if the course carries that attribute, and not all of them do.
I think we are caught up.
All right, we probably have like 5 more minutes, so maybe room for. So if you have any questions that you're just like dying to get in the next 4 minutes, type them now. And once you get through your new path classes, everybody in this room will have room for free electives. And so if there's a class you want to take because you think it's really interesting, we really encourage you to take those classes. It may not be until your sophomore year, let's say, but you absolutely will have room to take free electives at some point while you're here. So even if you don't have a lot of choice this semester, eventually you will get quite a bit of choice in your courses.
Couple questions. One question about challenge exams. Do we know the platform that students take them on?
I believe it's Canvas, which is our learning platform that we use for all of our courses. I am not 100% positive about that. Admissions would be the person to fully clarify for you, but I'm like 95% sure it's on Canvas.
Yeah, I know there's a page on the admissions website all on dedicated to the challenge exams. A question about Global Connections. Do students take New Path courses through Global Connections if they're participating in that site?
You do. If you're in Global Connections, there are some New Path courses available. You definitely want to talk to your advisor about the Global Connections option when you meet during your walk-ins. For some students, if you're able to go to a site, it is a better fit for you, even if that site is Boston. For some students, Global Connections is a really nice alignment with their curriculum, and it makes total sense to participate in that kind of program. But it will be, ideally, it's a mix of major and new path courses, just like if you were going to a site, in Boston or Ireland or wherever.
Another question about the new path courses, which I love because a lot of our elective options do carry new path when you're looking at the NUin courses. Would it be smarter to choose electives that count towards new path than to take electives that don't count towards any? If you don't mind, I'll answer this one.
Sure.
It depends, because sometimes it's always nice to check a box and move forward in the program because it means you don't have to do that later. However, if it's a course you absolutely do not want to take, don't take it, because you have plenty of options to take to satisfy the new path at a later point too. So it really would depend on your own personal interests. Like Amber mentioned, a lot of us have psych backgrounds, so I'm going to be much more eager to want to take those art and psych courses than I would a calculus class. Although I know a lot of students in this room are probably really interested in those calculus and science classes. So really think about your own personal interest and where you think would be complementary towards your degree. I will say, as an undergrad, these are some of my favorite classes that I still talk about today that I would never have taken if I wasn't told I had to take something to fulfill that category. So it could be a really great opportunity to explore other areas.
Yep, sounds good. One more?
This one, I'm not sure if you know the answer, but will there be more to-do items added to the application status, or will My Northeastern now be the main portal to check?
Ooh, that's a good question that I have no answer to. Admissions and the NUin office would be able to answer that for you. The other thing is, if you're not in the Boston site, most of your stuff doesn't live on My Northeastern yet. A lot of it stays in the admitted student portal. So I think that question also varies depending on what site you're going to or coming to. So unfortunately, I hate ending on a question I don't have an answer for, but check with admissions and NUin. I think they'd be able to tell you better than us.
And also the NUin Boston students will be receiving information from our orientation office about their Boston orientation through that program.
Yes. All right, well, hopefully this was really helpful. Thank you for sticking in. I really appreciate those of you that left your camera on. It's just so much nicer than talking to a bunch of boxes. So thank you. Have a good day, and we'll see you, or night, or whatever's left. And we'll see you when you come for your advising appointments in the next couple weeks. Bye, everyone. Thank you.